All right. It's been a while. I haven't posted one of these in a while. Um, what are we going to talk about tonight? I think we're going to talk about uh, the last 6 months. It's been a while. It's been about 6 months since I posted my last video. So we'll talk about the last 6 months, and I think I want to reflect on more than just the last 6 months, but the last year or so, last 9 months. As you can, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I've moved back to my parents' place, taking up my brother's old room because he's got my room now, which is, I guess, his room now. Um, I want to shout out to Dad for lending me the camera. That's why it's a lot more HD than the last couple ones. Um, I'm also really trying to make a conscious effort of like making eye contact with the camera rather than looking behind it, which is where the screen is showing me what I look like. But we're gonna try and keep that going. Um, yeah, I think now that I've moved back to my parents' house, it's a good time. It's been about 2 weeks now. It's a good spot to kind of reflect, look back at my experience in the last 9 or so months. I think it's about September. It's about 9 months of living out of home. Um, I think we can start with why I decided to move back. I think it was mostly a mental health kind of thing. Trying to do what's best for myself. Decided that I think, gave it a good try. Things weren't going so great for me, just mental health wise, and I thought maybe it might be best to move back. Might be time for me to move back. Um, yeah, I think this is a pretty big deal, pretty big last 9 months or so, and I think it's a bit to unpack, a bit to talk about. Um, and I think, you know, it'd be interesting to kind of go through all the little things. I mean, all the little things, but some of the things going through my head in each part of the last 9 months, from moving out of the parents' house 3 times, as in to 3 different places before moving back. So I think a good place to start is why did I move out in the first place? What was the mindset, or where was I at in terms of my mental health and just where I was in that kind of months leading up to the move. Um, so I mean, as a lot of you know, I had something happen mid through 2020. That was quite tough for me. Still kind of struggling with it now. It's been about a year now. Still kind of struggling with it. Still dealing with it. I think is a better way to say this. I'm still dealing with it. I'm still processing through it. Um, and I think it was really tough for me, right, when it first happened. And over the next couple months after it happened, there was not a whole lot was going well for me in the sense that um, I was I was in a bad spot, and things weren't changing, things were still bad, and I think for a while, even before this happened, there was thoughts of me moving out. There was discussions about me moving out, and I thought, obviously looking back at it, it might not be the vibe, but in the moment, it felt I needed a change. I needed something different. I needed something to happen, something to shake up my situation. And I thought, why not? Let's do it. Let's move out. Um, so that's actually kind of why I moved out. Or at least that's one of the reasons why I moved out. In this particular context of the mental health situation, that is why I moved out. Yeah, I mean, I think looking back at it, you know, maybe it wasn't the play. Maybe, uh, as mentioned, I wasn't quite in the right emotional state, or the best mental or emotional state, and maybe moving out wasn't the play. Maybe I made a mistake. I don't know. You kind of you kind of, now that it's in the past, now that I've gone through it, now that I'm back where I feel that I should be, it's okay to look back and kind of realize or understand that maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. Um, and it wasn't just me moving out, but I think maybe the situation that it was in the sense that I moved to Chatswood, which was not close. It was about a 35 minute drive, just like regular traffic, 35 minute drive. And you're looking at over an hour when we're talking, you know, your 5 p.m.s, your 3 p.m.s. Like it was pretty bad, you know. Um, and I think that was there was a certain element of like, moving away from what was currently happening to me. Like I want to go somewhere else. Oh my, I need to stop hitting this. Um, yeah, there was a current like it wasn't quite working for me right where we are. And it's not in terms of like the house or the family or anything like that. I think it was just an overall kind of like mindset that the current situation that I was in wasn't working. Um, so I think it wasn't just let's move out, but let's not move out somewhere near, but let's expand a little bit, go somewhere else. So that was a little bit of that. I think maybe looking back at it, it may seem a little bit like I was running away from the situation. Um, Bit of a denial kind of thing. Um, you look at it and you think, why wouldn't you just stay around the people that are supporting you and loving you instead of running away? And I think that's something I can look back at and think, shouldn't have done that. Maybe not. I don't know. Um, Anyways, I did that. That's what happened. I think I got quite distant to the people in this area because a lot of my close mates live in the area. We're looking like North Rocks, Carlingford, Epping, a bit of Castle Hill, a bit of Penny Hills kind of vibe, Parramatta. All within about 10-minute driving range of each other. Driving range, drive. You know what I'm trying to say? About 10 minutes. Um, and that was my support group, support network. And to move away from that, you look at it now. It's like maybe that wasn't the right move. Um, so anyway, we did that, and but the thing is, like, I think this is something that's quite important to mention, that I think I knew that in terms of moving out to Chatswood, I was only going to be there for a while because the lease that we were under was only for a couple months. So by Feb, I would have had to move. I would have had to move out. Um, so that was a bit of a factor in deciding the place. And another thing was too, like the reason I chose this spot in Chatswood is because I actually had, um, sorry, pardon me, I had a couple of friends that was already living in this house that I knew from back in Tamworth. Now they weren't, well, when I was living in Tamworth, they were quite close friends of mine, but we kind of, we weren't super close. Um, and it almost became like I would have seen, like I saw them like a couple times a week, just little chats here and there, and we kind of hung out maybe once a month, kind of thing. But it ended up being a little bit of a like a solitude kind of spot where I was just like by myself to an extent where I was, playing a whole lot more Fortnite, staying up all night kind of thing. Not really wanting to leave the house because knowing that if I were to leave the house to go somewhere, that would have to be a crazy, we're talking like 35, 40-minute drive. So again, not another thing, not yet another thing that maybe wasn't as positive for me in that situation. Um, and then I think, yeah, so that's the whole Chatswood kind of situation. That little that well, I guess the biggest phase in the last 9 months. So that was about 6 months, I think it was. September to Feb, September, October, November, December, January, February. Yeah, about 6 months. It was. I was in Chatswood. Then after that, we moved to Epping. Oh, Epping. The place that I was living in Epping was not the best, to say the least. It's quite funny actually. Some of you know this. When I moved in, it was like a share house. So there was other people living there also, and they were all like, I don't need to mention that. We can cut that bit out. But anyway, it was I was on like I was in my own room and stuff, and as I mentioned, I play a bit of Fortnite. A lot of you know this, and I'll admit I can be quite a loud person. I do talk quite loudly, and I whatever. So that's fair enough. And when I play my game, sometimes I get a bit into it. So the first night, this is the very first night. I'm gaming, and I get a knock on the door. I'm like, hey, it's a bit late. Do you mind keeping it down a bit? I'm like, oh, you're right. My bad. I'm sorry. I'll 100%. I'll keep it down. And just a bit of context, The previous two places I was living in Tallwood, my parents' place, and in Chatswood, my room was always kind of like separate from everyone else's, and there was always like quite a bit of space. So I was like, it wasn't a massive deal how loud I was in those two particular instances. But not in this house in Epping apparently. So the second night, I like made a conscious effort to be quieter, like trying to play a bit quieter, and I got a complaint again. It's like, hey, you keep it down. I'm like, I don't know, but all right, like, cool, that's fine. And anyway, the next night, I'm like, all right, I don't really want to play tonight. I don't want to have the same thing happen. I don't have to deal with that kind of thing because I felt bad. I didn't really want to do that to my neighbors. So I'm like, all right, I won't play Fortnite tonight. I'm gonna watch something on my laptop. I'm the type of guy that likes to watch, like, watch it out loud, like not loud, but like I don't really like to wear earphones or headphones or whatever the case is. I like to like kind of just watch it. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching, and I get a message from one of my roommates being like, "Yo, I can hear it. Can you put it down, please?" I'm like, bro, these walls like paper thin. Like, what's going on? How are they hearing? Crazy super hearing or something? And I was like, that's crazy. There's no way. And then the following night, this was kind of like the nail in the coffin. I'm like, I'm not doing anything tonight. I'm not like I can't deal with this. All these complaints. So I'm like, I'm gonna. It was like midnight or something. I'm gonna get out and I'm just gonna like make some noodles for myself. But I'm gonna be super quiet. Like I'm not gonna make any noise. Normally, like if I'm going to the kitchen, I'm gonna cook something for myself. I'll play a bit of music in the background, a bit quieter, but whatever. And I'm like walking, like tiptoeing down the stairs, tiptoeing to the kitchen, trying to like get all my stuff. And I get a message being like, "Yo, can you not get food in the middle of the night? We can hear your footsteps." I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's where I was like, all right, this ain't working. I sent him a message. I'm like, yo, this doesn't work for either of us. Doesn't work. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna find another place to live. Gave him my 1 month in advance kind of thing. Started looking for somewhere else to live. So that was kind of like, yo, like that's kind of garbage. And I guess what the good thing, quote unquote, good thing about the situation was that like I was quite distracted by that. Like there was though that was more in my mind than anything else. And sure, it wasn't a great experience, but it was a distraction from the slightly worse emotional trauma that was kind of happening in the background. Um, and then we found a new place, Epping, and it was great. This new place was great. There was the owner of the place was really good. The house was amazing. No noise complaints. Massive house, so there was no issues with that. And I think that's where it kind of went downhill a little bit in the sense that I kind of look at the Chatswood situation as a bit of denial. You look at your like 5 stages of grief, and I think that kind of goes under that, where I was kind of running away from the situation and I didn't really want to deal with it. I didn't want to process it the right and maybe healthy way that I should have processed it, and instead I kind of ran away from it. But I think now that I was kind of more settled down in the new Epping place, and things were kind of good in that sense, I was able to like sit and kind of like, oh crap, like really process the emotional like state that I was in. And I think that made it really tough because I not only did it kind of like all hit me at once, but I was alone when that happened. And like when I say I was alone, not like I still had like support from my friends and support from my family, and I was spending a lot of time with my family and friends. But like you kind of go through the day with whoever and whoever, but then to kind of go home and back home in Epping and have to be alone at night, I think it's tough to have to kind of try and deal with the situation by yourself, especially after so long, after like pushing it away for so long and pushing it down, maybe run like I mentioned, like I said, I was like running from it for so long for it to kind of just like hit me, and that's really really tough. And if it's not ideal. It's not really what you want to do. I personally am quite a big people person, and when this kind of thing happens, it's magnified when I'm alone. you know. Um, so that was really tough for me, and I think, you know, I think moving back is definitely the play. Was definitely the play. I think I understood that things weren't working for me in the current situation, and that, you know, it's not really where I want to be. And you know what? I think that's one of the steps you got to take, right? In terms of dealing with the situation, is understanding firstly that there is a situation, and understanding that running away from it, hiding from it, moving to Chatswood isn't going to fix anything. Sure, a mix up is good. Sure, some sort of change happening is good, but I think you want a change in the right direction, not quite a change in terms of running away. Obviously, in the situation, it's really tough to kind of understand what's best for yourself, and it's so much easier to sit here and look back at what happened in the last couple months and be like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I should have moved back sooner. It's not. It's so much easier to do that, you know, now than it was when you're in the situation, and it's always going to be the case when something happens. It's always easy to look back at it and be like, that wasn't the play. That wasn't. There were so many better things you could have done. But I think the only thing I can do in this situation now is to kind of look back, understand the issues, and take the right steps to kind of progress into healing and into processing and dealing with the situation in a much healthier and better way. Um, and again, like I said, I think that starts with understanding that there's a situation, and then having the guts or the willingness to understand that there's a problem, and that something actually needs to happen, and that you need to actually take proper steps towards fixing said problem, not just running away. Um, and I think it's been a tough lesson to learn. I've had my really, really lows quite, in the last couple months, and it's been really, really tough, but I think it's a lesson worth learning. You don't wish this on anybody. You don't ever want anyone to have to get to the point where they're, struggling to find reason. Um, and personally, I've gone through my fair share of, tough spots, tough situations to be in. Um, all you can really do is learn, and to continue learning. Take the L's and then learn from them. Rather than continually build and put you down, and put you in a situation where you feel that there's no way out. You need to learn. You need to learn, and you need to get support. There's always people there. There's always, and I think that's, again, one of the things that I made the mistake of doing. Moving back to Epping was definitely was a more positive thing, because that's, like I said, closer to where everybody was, closer to my family, closer to my friends. But I think, in the first place, moving away from what was comfortable and what was close support really wasn't quite right. It wasn't the right move, and I think I paid for it. And that's tough, but it's okay, as long as I learn from it and understand what the issue was, and understand why I got to where I got to, so that I don't ever have to go there again, or at least so that if I ever go there again, I can understand what might help me. I can't sit here and say that that's never going to happen. But what I can say is, next time I'm going to put myself in a situation in which I'm going to then be able to cope with it better. Again, not something easy. It's not easy. This kind of situation is never easy, and it's complex. It's different for everybody. Everybody goes through their different struggles. and copes with it differently and reacts to things differently than everybody else than anybody else does. But I think the common kind of, I don't want to say fix, but the common thing that I feel that everybody needs when going through an emotional or tough kind of time is that support. That the idea that you have friends, you have family that are looking out for you, that are praying for you, that are supporting you, and who are there for you just for chats, banter, just to spend time with, so you're not alone. And then there's that professional help. So there's always a different kind of support. And I think that was that rookie error number one that I made, was to run away from the support. Maybe not consciously. And that's tough when you make an unconscious, non-conscious, when you make a decision, you make a mistake that you didn't intend to make, that you didn't know you were making. Which is why we learn, which is why we look back, which is why I'm doing this, which is why I'm talking through this. Maybe nobody watches this, but the ability to sit here in a place of comfort, in a place where I feel that I am in a much better emotional state and emotional place to be able to do this, talk about it, and reflect on it, I think it's super important. I've said this before, and I think I said this in my very first video. I'm more doing this for me. But I also think right now, with what I'm saying, with the subject matter of this video, I think everybody needs to hear this. I think this is something super important for everybody. We hear this all the time. We look at this in social media, and there's a big thing going on about this right now in American sports, where people are starting to express themselves, starting to understand that your emotional and mental health is extremely important, and that it's not something to ever be, you don't ever push that to the side. You should never push that to the side. People do that all the time, but it's not something that should be pushed to the side, because it's a big deal. And I'm a massive advocate of, in theory, I'm a massive advocate of support and understanding that people aren't alone. I think I struggle, and maybe that's why I'm such a massive advocate, because I struggle with that. I struggle with understanding that when I'm in a tough spot, I don't have to deal with it by myself. And I've had so many friends support me and be there for me, and family members who have been that support. And just, I guess, a word to everybody out there who may be going through something tough, maybe don't feel like you have support. You do. There's always someone there who loves you. I'm getting a bit emotional. I'm getting a bit motivational speaker kind of vibe right now. And this video is turning out to be a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But I think it's an important video, and I'm quite happy that I've done this. And I think this was quite important for me personally to have to get to talk about this. Has been good, and I'm quite glad that I've done this. So I might call it there. I might end it there. It's good to be back. It's been a while. I haven't really haven't done this in a while. But I'm glad to be back, and I'm definitely keen to post more videos in the future. I want to say that I want to do this once a week, but I know I'm going to say that, do it for 2 weeks, and then not post for another 6 months. So I'm not going to make any empty promises. But I would like to do this more often. And if you guys have any ideas of what I could talk about, or anyone who wants to jump on, we got a nice sick little setup now. We got an actual nice mic, good camera. Let me know. I've got a couple ideas for a couple videos. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and end it there. Thanks guys. I'll see you later.